And we're going to finish up part 3 with section 65 as we now have it today in the Doctrine and Covenants. And again, a little out of order, 65 coming after 66, but it's okay. The first copy that we get is from Revelation Book 1, handwriting of John Whitmer. And we do get one edition of text here. It is cut out of, which is in the hand of Joseph Smith. So context here is, and the stone which is hewn down or hewn from is removed, and it's replaced with cut out of the mountain. So the text as we have it now is, as the stone which is cut out of the mountain. And this is, I think, an analogy to, or a hearkening back to Daniel's prophecy of the kingdom of God overtaking the kingdoms of this world, the stone cut out of the mountain. So anyway, that is an addition, a correction made by Joseph Smith's hand. I talked about this in a previous episode, but we get number 3, which is a publication number set that wasn't quite obeyed. So I think they were intending on something there, but it never came to pass. But anyway, number 3 is also written here. And then we get the number 65, which is written very lightly, and then it was written and then erased, but it's very, very small here. And the footnote in the facsimile edition of this says, this revelation has appeared as section 65 in all editions of the Doctrine and Covenants published by the RLDS Church, which is now called the Community of Christ. So that number 65 has been honored in their publications since that time. Another copy of this, apparently, which was later on, was also found in the same journal book as the previous pages. So this is the handwriting of William E. McClellan. So if you remember that journal from the previous part, that's where you also get a copy of this. The Evening and Morning Star has a version of this one. It comes after what we would now call section 29 and before what we would now call Jacob chapter 5 from the Book of Mormon. So in the periodical, that's just kind of where this sits. And as you can see, it's a lot more brief than the other ones are. But we find it in this periodical, the Evening and Morning Star. You'll find a copy of it in Revelation Book 2. And it is section 24 in the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants. And the manuscript history also has a copy of it. So that's what we get. Now, our modern section headings give us some differences here. So the 1981 version gives us Hiram, Ohio, et cetera, book, blah, blah, blah. Then it says, the prophet designated this revelation as a prayer. Now, the 2013 edition says, revelation on prayer given through Joseph Smith the prophet at Hiram, Ohio, October 30, 1831. So, is it a prayer or is it about prayer? The answer is yes, it is. We'll get to that in a moment. So it is about prayer, and it also gives a prayer towards the end, which is interesting. So let's get into an introduction to section 65. Revelation Book 1 gives us this. 69th Revelation, October 30th, 1831. That's all you get. Revelation Book 2 says, revelation given in Hiram, Portage County, October 30, 1830. And it corrects it to 1831. So there you go. McClellan's copy actually does have an introduction here. It says, a revelation of Joseph the seer, 30th of October, 1831, on the 6th Matthew 10 verse. So if you go to Matthew chapter 6, verse 10, it is the Lord's Prayer. And in this particular case, he's quoting, it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So for some reason, he called that one out specifically. So that's what we're talking about, is the Lord's Prayer. Evening and Morning Star gives us a nice bold heading. It says, revelation on prayer, given October 30, 1831. And the Doctrine and Covenants also calls it a revelation on prayer, given October 1831. We get very little in the manuscript history this time around, which is kind of opposite of what we usually get. It says, in the forepart of October, I received the following, revelation on prayer, given October 1831. Now, the historical introduction gives us probably more than anyone else. We thank you. It says this, the revelation which declares that the keys of God's kingdom have been returned to the earth to prepare it for the second coming of Jesus Christ culminates with a prayer for the growth of that kingdom. The revelation may have been dictated as part of a church service held at John and Alice Johnson's home on Sunday, 30th October, 1831. McClellan wrote in his journal that he preached there that day in a meeting attended by Joseph Smith and several others of the brethren and sisters. McClellan did not refer to this revelation in his journal, but since Joseph Smith was present, this may have been the venue where the revelation was dictated. Okay, so probably as part of a church service held in their home, which Kind of cool. You think about a prophet living with you and he's holding church services in your house and you got to be a part of all that. It's kind of special. So it is a revelation about prayer, and then at the end offers a prayer. So it is both. And I think that's why it's kind of in both cases there. So who comes first? Well, it is difficult to determine which of the two is the earliest extant version, but because Whitmer's copy, which he included in Revelation Book 1, and which is featured here, shows less punctuation, it may more closely represent the original. So if you're wondering why we're not using this thing in the back of William McClellan's notebook as opposed to Revelation Book 1, they just made their best guess based on how much punctuation it had. Again, a forensic scientist point of view that I do not have because I am the amateur historian, and I'm okay with that. So a little bit of content and footnotes. We really only get 2 footnotes for this review. A lot of the other ones are scriptural references. Obviously, we're talking about the Lord's Prayer and other things that are from the New Testament and scriptures that we have. But I do get 2, and I'll give you those, and then we'll be done with this part. Pretty short one here. So the content gives us this. It says, "The keys of the kingdom of God is committed unto man on the earth, and from thence shall the gospel roll forth unto the ends of the earth, as the stone which is hewn from the mountain without hands shall roll forth until it have filled the whole earth." Footnote 3 to this says, the New Testament records Christ telling Peter that he would receive the keys of the kingdom of heaven. A 15 March 1832 revelation declares that the Lord gave Joseph Smith the keys of the kingdom. Likewise, a history that Joseph Smith composed circa summer 1832 states that Joseph Smith also received the keys of the kingdom of God. And also, again, just to reiterate, this whole the stone which is hewn from the mountain was changed by Joseph Smith's hands. That was cut from, just a little addition there. Further into the Revelation, we get this text. It says, "Known his wonderful works among the people, call upon the Lord, that his kingdom may go forth upon the earth, that the inhabitants thereof may receive it, and be prepared for the days to come, in the which the Son of Man shall come down in heaven, clothed in the brightness of his glory, to meet the kingdom of God, which is set up upon the earth." Footnote 7 to this says, about the same time as this revelation was dictated, Joseph Smith revised Mark 38, chapter 8, 38 to read, quote, "He that layeth down his life for my sake and the gospel's shall come with him, and shall be clothed with his glory in the cloud on the right hand of the Son of Man," unquote. And those are the 2 footnotes that you get. A little bit of context there. A very short revelation and a very short part. So thanks for sticking with us today. We got some meetings and stuff. We're kind of getting into the part of the Joseph Smith papers where we're getting away from just revelations and getting a lot more into record keeping. And so hopefully this has been somewhat interesting to understand not only these meetings, but what truly led up to some of these revelations, the reason why people were spoken to in a certain way and all that. So until that time, this is the amateur historian saying thank you again to the Book of Commandments and to the Reorganized Church and the Community of Christ for doing an excellent job preserving that. And now we move on to more things as we continue in the Doctrine and Covenants. So have a great week, and we'll see you later.